This is The Litter Box, a Detroit Lions podcast with your hosts, Chet West and Bill Patterson.
Lions Litter Box listeners, I told you I didn't really care for preseason football last time we spoke because it just doesn't tell us enough about the team we're going to see on the field during the regular season. However, one thing, and I'm going to ask you a question in a minute, Bill, one thing that sticks out to me, what we're learning about this team is we don't have a backup quarterback. We are learning that our offensive line, once you get past that 2 deep or 1 deep to the 2 deep, isn't that great. We're young. Our D-backs look pretty good. Can't really tell much about a defense when you're given ball position to the other team at the 30 after every drive. Bill, why don't you wrap up what you saw in the Hall of Fame game?
It was awful, and it started terrible and continued on that course. Basically, the Lions fumbled the opening kickoff, having a linebacker receive it, which is also very odd, but very on brand for Dan Campbell football, MCDC. And after that, that wasn't the only short field that they gave the Los Angeles Chargers, who were playing more, let's just say of their 2 deep. I don't know that starters were playing in this game whatsoever, but you know, players were playing for the Chargers, and they absolutely smoked the Lions. It's the worst loss in the Dan Campbell era ever in preseason, 34-7. And they just looked outclassed. Most importantly, to your point, is that Kyle Allen looked completely overwhelmed and couldn't do anything. Anytime he was getting a drive started, he threw an interception. And even worse, we wait till the second half and, you know, our third round pick from a few years ago, 3 years ago, Hendon Hooker comes in and can't move the offense. He only completes 3 passes. So overall, I left the game not feeling good about anything, not because of the score, but because we didn't really see anything outside of 3 players. Dan Skipper played on the offensive line and looked like you'd expect Dan Skipper to be, which is he is the backup tackle, you know, meaning that he's not even the guy that's going to come in if Sewell or Decker, God forbid, get hurt. He's the extra tackle, you know, at the goal line or you know, now eligible Skipper. The other guy that looked really good is our 3rd round pick this year, Slaw. Had 2 catches and he clearly...
and Lovett looked good.
Yeah.
Lovett looked pretty good too.
And then Craig Reynolds was the other guy that looked good, but Craig Reynolds and Skipper were already going to make the team. Slaw was also going to make the team. So I didn't learn anything. You know what I'm saying?
You can call him coleslaw, by the way. Everybody's just calling him coleslaw.
Yeah. So it was great that the Lions got an extra week of practice. It was great they were on national TV. It was great that they got to participate in this, but we didn't learn anything. And if anything, I left immediately after and like just kind of typed up some notes and thought that, you know, I think the Chargers look really good, which I thought they would look good going into the season. I just thought they looked more prepared, didn't commit as many mistakes, but again, it's week 1 and, you know, of preseason. So
then you just let it go.
Yeah. That being said, I'm going to volley back to you on this. Backup quarterback's a huge concern of mine, and Carson Wentz is still out there. All he's asking for is a guaranteed contract, and he has to be the number 2. I do not want him getting gobbled up if this continues. So I'm giving this week to Hendon Hooker, who should, according to all notes, is being named the starter against the Falcons Friday night for the first half. I believe Kyle Allen will get the second half. We will not see Jared Goff in any way, shape, or form. And I would like a veteran backup that could win us a game against a division rival, because I have zero confidence that Hendon Hooker could go to Lambeau or to Minneapolis or to Soldier Field, even though it's the last week of the season, and be able to pull a rabbit out of his hat. And I have less faith in Kyle Allen, who literally, I think, peaked in high school as a 5-star athlete and has just been mediocre since then. Your
what
thoughts?
Do you think? Let me throw this at you, Bill, because this is something I've been kind of thinking about all week. So we've got a series of concerns lining up for this season here. We have an offensive line that is slightly restructured, involving most likely a rookie in there somewhere.
I think more than slightly restructured. 3/5 of it's going to be new players.
We have edge rush concerns and the health of Aiden Hutchinson, who's now we're starting to hear contract talk about Aiden and an extension and how it might be kind of a little bit of a snafu there getting to that number. And we've got some issues with the quarterback position beyond Jared Goff. What do you think is the single biggest concern Lions fans have for this season? And I'm betting it's probably a concern we've had for the last two, but what do you think it is? What do you think is the single biggest concern for Lions fans? Like the one thing that if it happens, it's like, oh boy.
Jared Goff goes down, the season's over.
Bingo.
Unless they pick up the phone and get a Carson Wentz, who I'm not saying is going to get you 15 wins like the Lions had last year, but
should be priority number one.
He could get you, if disaster happens, he could get you to 11 wins. He could get you 10 wins.
Get you to the playoffs and maybe Goff gets healthy. Who knows? I mean, we're obviously sitting here coming up with the most hypothetical, but at the same time, we've been dodging this bullet for 2 years.
3 years.
When's it going to hit us in the face here?
And the other part of it is, to your point, which I think these go hand in hand. We have a new center, meaning that Frank Ragnow is no longer the center. Whether it's Graham Glasgow, who has also played center for the Lions, he's also played left guard and right guard. It's a new position for him with the other guys on the line. You've got a rookie at one of those spots in Tate Ratledge, whether he's the center or whether he's the right guard.
Yeah.
And then you've got a new left guard, probably in Mahogany, who played well, in spot duty last year, but small sample size. So that coupled with the fact that play action is the Lions' bread and butter.
The chance that your quarterback may take a few hits.
He always does.
Could be, more in play with a less experienced line. And so I ask, everybody talks, go sign Z, get us some edge rush. And you know what? I love a backup quarterback right now. It's capable. I don't know what Hendon Hooker has been doing for 3 years. I have no clue, but he hasn't picked it up. So it isn't there. And Kyle Allen hasn't started a game in years for a reason.
Yeah. Like I said, he peaked in high school football. And at Texas A&M, he showed nothing, which Jimbo Fisher, contract be damned, probably wished he hadn't signed him. Hendon Hooker has a golden opportunity placed in front of him. Like our sister podcast, it's kind of like Jace Young. There's an opening at third base. There's an opening at backup quarterback. Take it, Hendon Hooker. They drafted you. They traded up. Your dad is good friends with Brad Holmes. You have the longest leash of any backup quarterback ever drafted by any team in the history of the NFL. And if you can't capitalize on it,
really needs to figure this out. Give us some confidence.
Feel bad for a moment if Brad Holmes and company pick up the phone and get a Carson Wentz. What worries me, Chet, is news of the day, Teddy Bridgewater, who's always been the de facto Lions backup, signed with the Buccaneers today. And not that I wanted him, but Huntley, he played at UCLA, signed with the Browns. The Browns are just collecting quarterbacks at this point. But
I feel like Carson Wentz would be a perfect backup quarterback for this team.
Perfect.
I don't know why.
I do too.
I don't know why he fits. In my mind, he fits. He could come in and manage a game and keep us out of trouble and possibly win some games with the talent that he's going to have around him. And should we start talking about some of that talent?
Yeah, in just a minute. The other thing with that is that he excels in the play action offense is the other part of that, which is I've heard so much about, hey, we're going to miss, our offensive coordinator. What did Ben John? He was God's gift to the offense, this and that. I think John Morton's going to fit in pretty seamlessly.
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. I think the key thing is going to be, can the offensive line in that middle hold? How's the center quarterback exchange going to be? And can we keep Jared Goff healthy for 17 games? let's talk about the other aspect of it. I think you wanted to talk a little bit about probably the number one strength of the team, which is the running back position.
I think this coming season, Jahmyr Gibbs has a chance to be the best running back in the NFL. I think he can exceed or pass Saquon. I think he's going to be turned loose. I think Morton's offense, I think he's going to get a lot more involved in passing game. You're going to see him racking up some passing yards. You're going to see him getting the football in the run more often. I think it's going to be a little less predictable as to whether we have a passing down or a running down, or a passing play or a running play queued up based on who's in the backfield. I think you're going to see a little bit more of a variation there. I think Gibbs is going to get used a lot more. I think Craig Reynolds makes a fine third running back on this team. And I know everybody was patting him on the back after last week's Hall of Fame game because he turned in a good performance. Craig Reynolds is solid. You know what? Craig Reynolds is kind of what we need at quarterback right now. A good backup that we know will get us the win, get us the yards, whatnot. But Hendon Hooker has all these weapons around him and can't figure it out. Carson Wentz with all these weapons, I think, could figure it out very well, similar to how Jared Goff has figured it out within this offense with all these weapons. The offensive line, question mark. The other strength that I see is the wide receiver crew. I think this Coleslaw guy, Coleslaw. I think Coleslaw is going to be the real deal. I see him, he's going to slot right in there and provide that sort of intermediate range that we need. I think J-Mo is going to be, he got his number one. I think he's going to be flying up and down the field, doing his thing. And from all reports, he's just been burning people in practice. And he's apparently rounded out his work ethic this past off season and really started working on, his physical and his approach to his routes and whatnot. That's always going to be a question mark there. We'll see. Give him a chance, I guess. I think Laporta is going to get used a ton in this Morton offense. I think he's going to be a huge weapon this season. I think he's going to have a bounce back. He had a little down sophomore year. I think this junior season here is going to be a big one for him.
So I have some thoughts on all of that, if I can add. You're 100% correct. And Coleslaw being on board, I hope it means the name Tom Kennedy never comes across ever again. And nothing against him.
Just envision this. You've got Amon-Ra, J-Mo, and Slaw in there, okay?
And Tim
Those
Patrick.
three guys. And Tim Patrick, who just sustained an injury. Tim Patrick did sustain an injury. I think there's a little bit of an injury update on him today. He left practice. Let's hope it's nothing too serious. But either way, Slaw gets more throws. He gets a little more mayo.
And Patrick has had MCL and ACL injuries in the past, which is how the Lions were.
That's exactly right.
And if I can circle back to running backs, I've got a name for you.
Okay.
I agree with you 100% on Jahmyr Gibbs.
Okay.
I do think David Montgomery's workload is going to start seeing a slight decrease.
Just a slight decrease.
And I don't see David Montgomery being a Lion next season.
Okay.
I think this is his last season. And the reason for that is
I can go with all that. I think that's all rational.
Sion Vaki is going to start getting those short line carries. He was a draft pick that, again, common theme here, Brad Holmes traded up for. He played safety and running back at Utah, was an exceptional player.
He got a look or two last year when Montgomery went down, and he looked real good running the football when he had it.
And he is someone I would expect these next 2 weeks in the preseason to get long looks. Apparently, he is catching the ball very well. Out of the backfield, he's a bigger back, more in the Montgomery mold than the Gibbs mold. But I still think Gibbs is going to have an exceptional season. The other thing I heard is that J-Mo's route tree has been expanded greatly. I don't know if that means that Ben Johnson's route tree was too expansive for him, it was too complex, or if Johnny Morton's just dumbing it down, or they've come to a, happy place. All those things are good from what we're hearing on this. Two other names for you in the running back room who I don't think will even make the 53-man.
Okay.
Jabari Small and Jacob Sailors. Just watch him this week, but probably say goodbye as you watch.
You think
them.
so? All right.
Well,
okay.
I mean, I don't see them carrying more than 4 running backs. We know Montgomery, Gibbs, and Craig Reynolds are going to make the team. I would say I would say Vaki's going to make the team, and I would also say Reynolds makes the team.
Vaki plays a lot of special teams too, so he's got a spot there.
So does Craig Reynolds.
Yep.
The other reason why I would also say that, when we talk about the receiver room, it's JMO, it's Amon, it's Tim Patrick, it's Coleslaw, and then Raymond does return punts and kicks, so he's going to be part of that mix as well. Tom Kennedy, it was awesome seeing you in preseason for the last 3 years.
We finally appear to have some receiver depth.
Yeah.
And we were kind of cobbling that third and fourth receiver thing together for a while there. I mean, Josh Reynolds had a season. He left, got money, played
did nothing
terribly where he went.
Did nothing. You know what's interesting?
Tim Patrick turned him into a number 4 guy. That went pretty well. He's injury prone. He has an injury to start the season off. I see Lovett and Slaw picking that up. And I think you got your permanent 3 there in Slaw here pretty soon.
So I've got a bunch of family. I'm going to give a shout out to nephews, Austin and Cooper, who are big Broncos fans. And the minute that Patrick was signed by the Lions, and conversely, they being the Broncos had signed Reynolds, they're like, the Lions fleeced us. They fleeced us. The Broncos are doomed with this. And Josh Reynolds was not a good Bronco whatsoever. As a matter of fact, he didn't even suit up in the playoffs.
He's a Jet now. We'll see what happens there.
Well, good luck, Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn's going to be just the next ex-Jet head coach. But I do have and I think Ben Johnson's
go to die. It used to be the Lions, now it's the Jets.
I also think Ben Johnson's going to be the next ex-Bears coach. I do have a beer bet for you, though.
Okay.
I agree with you about Gibbs. There's no way he scores 20 touchdowns again. I think the number's under that. And
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So old style coming your way. You can send me whatever.
Okay.
The finest is a grain belt. Is that your?
Grain belt would be a good match to old style. It would be a good swap.
Okay. So I would love it if it happens. I just think they're going to diversify a little more because I hope that David Montgomery is more healthy, but I also think Vaki is going to get a lot of carries on that. So anything else you'd like to touch on the skill positions on the offense?
Here's what, no, I have nothing else where offense is concerned. I do want to touch on defense because there were a couple of things I heard, little chatter, little quotes and whatnot that I heard this past week that I found very interesting on the defensive side. Are you ready for defense?
Yeah, can we do one thing? Because I just want to do due diligence to it. I'm looking at, today's practice roster and what's being forecast via the Lions website. And so right now the offensive line is Taylor Decker, at left tackle. No surprises there. He did have to have his knee cleaned up a little bit, but he's back at practice and doing fine. Christian Mahogany, as mentioned, is the left guard. Graham Glasgow has been taking the majority of snaps at center. Tate Ratledge is going to be the right guard, as you said earlier, and then the all-pro, all-world, all-everything. Panay Sewell is going to be a right tackle. I'm pretty comfortable with that 5. If that's the 5 that they stick with, practice with, and works best. I was always really nervous about drafting a guard, regardless of how well Ratledge played and for, the pedigree of program he played at the University of Georgia, starting him as a center when he wasn't a center. And my example is this. I had forgotten that Frank Ragnow, who was an all SEC center at Arkansas, wasn't the starting center his first year as a Lion. His rookie year, Travis Swanson was the center, and then they eventually moved him over, which could also say a lot about former or previous regimes and their ineptitude. But what I'm saying is I'm much more comfortable having a veteran there and easing into the position, whether it be Ratledge or they draft a center in the future, than starting a rookie there in Lambeau Field week 1. That's my take on that.
I don't see Ratledge starting at center week 1.
We're aligned.
I think it's going to be end of the season, second half of the season, unless something drastic happens.
Well, let's hope Glasgow, is healthy.
Rookie centers are a tough.
By the way, quick plug before we get to defense. For those of you that haven't watched Netflix's Quarterback, great Jared Goff stuff. Absolutely amazing. They follow 3 quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, who seemingly is always on it, he's entertaining.
Go figure. He's the entertaining guy. I don't think prior to 2 years ago, anybody would have thought Kirk Cousins would be entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Now he's everybody's favorite guy to watch on, the reality shows. It's crazy.
Jared Goff, who is also extremely entertaining, but in a totally different sense. And then Joe Burrow, who outside of his talent seems to be kind of an enigma, in my opinion, but whatever.
For fun, they should just throw like Bill Belichick and his girlfriend in there.
That would be
just to ratchet up the entertainment. Just what they talk about on the side, along with the rest of these guys.
They don't talk.
You don't think so? They're getting into deep conversations on the couch, Bill.
How do you like the wine, honey? What's our Amazon account number again, Bill?
Dear. Oh, boy.
All right.
So let's do defense.
Head to defense.
Let's do defense before we get in trouble. So I heard two things this past week, and we really kind of hammered in on the defense in the first episode, so I don't want to go too deep on defense this time, but I heard a couple interesting things. Number one, we've got a couple of free agent signings, veterans back there, between DJ Reed and Avonte Maddox. This past week, you got a glimpse into, I love reading these Dan Campbell quotes midweek because you get a glimpse into kind of his mind and how it works and how he's evaluating these guys. And he couldn't stop talking Avonte Maddox up one day. Total pro, does everything right, knows what his limitations are, knows how to get around. It was a great, I think that cornerback group is going to be a huge strength. And we said it in the first episode. I have a feeling that crew is going to be a lot like a Legion of Boom or a no-fly zone type deal back there. I may be overplaying this a little bit. I may be looking at some of the quotes and some of the comments, but I have a feeling we're going to have a really good pass defense this season.
I felt a lot better about it before the last 72 hours. 7th round draft pick from the University of Georgia, Dan Jackson, who is nothing more than a backup safety, special teams guy, is now on injured reserve. And the news from camp this week is that Ennis Rakestraw probably will not suit up at least for the first 10 weeks of this season. He had a chest contusion and a shoulder injury. And Dan Campbell, God bless him, man, so professional, complimented him, was very stoic about it. That being said, I agree.
Two guys that weren't going to contribute a ton right off the bat either
Okay,
way,
all right. Well, I have a name for you.
I don't mean to take the air out of that news, but I just don't think that is going to move the needle enough to crush our defensive backfield.
Well, I have a name for you that I think is going to fill the void very well. Rock Ya-Sin.
Yeah, he had a decent game last week.
And he was a former second-round pick of the Indianapolis Colts that could never find his feet underneath him there. And apparently, this staff...
Rock Ya-Sin.
R-O-C-K, The Rock.
I-A-S-I-N.
Apostrophe. Yeah, S-I-N.
It's a
he
Rock
is,
Ya-Sin.
Yeah, so I love DJ Reed, Terrion Arnold. So you've got two lockdown, corners right there. Apparently DJ Reed's lit it up in camp. Apparently Terrion Arnold looks like a different person this year, a different player with a year under his belt. And Meek Robertson, I think, is one of the best nickelbacks in the business. You already mentioned Avonte Maddox. So they've got 4 deep right there, not counting Khalil Dorsey. And then everything I'm reading and hearing from, the public sources. I don't have any real sources.
You don't have anybody in the locker room? Okay.
I wish.
You and J-Mo don't go out for drinks and he doesn't give you the inside scoop?
We do go out for drinks, but I don't get the inside scoop. Rock Ya-Sin is my pick to click.
Okay.
I think he's going to make the 53 man, and I think he's going to surprise us.
He might. I mean, I think that either way, I think that defensive backfield is going to be a huge strength. The other thing I heard, not so much on the positive side, and this was kind of Dan kind of sending a message, I think. I believe it was directed at Nate Lynn, who's somebody that we're kind of hoping might contribute in the edge rush. Statistically, he had a fairly decent game in the Hall of Fame game. I believe he got into the backfield a few times, if that's what a decent game consists of.
Pro Football Focus hated his game, but go ahead.
Okay, so that might align with how Campbell felt, too.
Yeah, no, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are big fans of Pro Football Focus.
I think a lot of GMs and head coaches are in this day and age.
Do you know who owns Pro Football Focus? Chris Collinsworth.
It's incredible. That's, Chris, He's got his gig on Monday Night Football, and then he's got Pro Football Focus.
Well, no, and not only that, he got his son hired. And if you go to the NBC Sports, literally under Jack Collinsworth, it says he's Chris Collinsworth's son.
Wonderful. Let me talk about the Nate Lynn comment. This gives you some insight into what he's looking for in these guys and the technique and whether they're doing things right and wrong. You keep hearing him say stuff like that when he's grading these guys out. Nate Lynn got in the backfield a lot, but all the pressure was coming from the backside of the quarterback or behind the quarterback. So he kind of made this comment. He's like, it's great that he gets in there. And if he gets the occasional sack that way, whatever, I don't care. He goes, I'm not even looking at that. If he doesn't get the sack, but he comes up the middle and gets in the quarterback's face and moves the quarterback's feet, that's what I care about. When you hear stuff like that from Dan Campbell, I find that fascinating insight, and it does make a ton of sense. I mean, this is a line that's going to need to move that quarterback around and make him uncomfortable. So if they can do that with the defensive backfield they got coupled in there, I see turnover margin going up. I think we're going to have a solid defense this year. I think we'll have a solid offense eventually. I don't want to judge this team on preseason games at this point. I just don't. I'll do the individual thing, but I'm terrified of judging this team on what we see in the preseason. People should not get too worried.
So if I can do a Pro Football Focus, the highest graded player from last Thursday's Hall of Fame game was actually Ahmed Hassanin.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay. The new defensive end.
Yeah. And so another thing that I keep reading out of camp is that Aiden Hutchinson looks all worldly. Davenport Marcus, that is, looks really good as well. And that Josh Paschal continues to disappoint, and that Hassanin might eclipse him to be second on that edge on the other side of Hutchinson. So just know that he might be a diamond in the rough, and great to this staff for finding him. I agree with everything you're saying about the defense. My only concern is defensive line injuries. If we went into the season with McNeil and Reeder starting, I'd feel a lot better than I do with Tyleik Williams and Reeder starting. It puts a lot of pressure on Reeder, who's having a good camp. Williams is basically a rock against the run. You cannot run against him.
I'm willing to give Tyleik Williams the shot here, though. I think he's got the skill. I think from everything I've read about the guys, I think he's going to be a pretty good one. That said, you don't want, if you can have a Lee McNeil, you want a Lee McNeil, but he's just not going to get healthy in time.
Yeah, it's just the depth after that, though. Let's just say Williams isn't that, because right now the starting defensive line looks like it's Reeder and Williams.
After last season, it was like a revolving door.
Yeah, and then you've got Roy Lopez, who they signed as a free agent from the Cardinals, who wasn't a significant contributor. You've got Mekhi Wingo, who is a LSU product that the Lions drafted, who seemingly can't stay on the field. And then you've got Pat O'Connor, and then it gets really bad. You've got Broderick Martin, who's never healthy, Chris Smith, Miles Adams, and Keith Cooper Jr. So I am with you that
health is going to be a big thing for that D-line.
And if they don't, let's just say best case scenario, Hendon Hooker shows and all good things happen over the preseason, and he truly is a backup quarterback that you believe in and can build around. I still don't know that Zadarius Smith is the greatest priority. I think D-line, getting somebody that was cut or somebody that's fallen out of favor.
Do you feel like that's what they're going to wait and do, though, before they sign somebody like Z? I feel like they're going to wait and see what cuts look like.
I think Z's going to be a Lion. There's no way he's going to training camp, though. He's a veteran. Why would he?
Yeah. I'm just curious. I wonder if they're just going to wait and see what happens with cuts.
Yeah.
Before they make any moves and sign guys.
That seems to be, mantra.
Seems like a logical
He's just going to show to Comerica and Belle Isle and other Detroit luminaries, both Conies with Cash Doll, and just go from there, and hopefully he'll be a Lion again. So,
all right, what are you looking to see against the Falcons this week?
Hendon Hooker be capable.
I need to see Hendo do something here.
And quite frankly, Kyle Allen could literally go 20 of 20 in the second half.
I'm not sure I'd trust him anyways.
Wouldn't change my opinion whatsoever. I would still be hoping that Carson Wentz picks up the phone.
I want to see a little more slaw. I want some more slaw with a little more mayo.
You like mayo with your slaw, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I like a heavy mayoed slaw.
Yeah, I'm a vinegar slaw guy.
And a little more love it. I'm glad those guys are out there running around playing because I don't know who else I'd want to watch at this point.
I'd like to see some Vaki.
So you want to see some Vaki? That's a good call. I'd like to see Vaki.
I'd like to see some Vaki with my slaw.
A little Vaki with your slaw. That sounds like an interesting dish. All right. Okay, Bill. Have we wrapped her up?
Done.
What do you feel? All right, folks. Episode 2 in the books.
Go Lions.
Maybe we'll touch on a fantasy angle or two as the preseason goes on. We're not going to touch on that quite yet. We're not going down that road quite yet, but we'll give you some thoughts eventually. We'll tickle it. We're not going to dive headfirst into fantasy, but we will tickle it.
This host
where
will
the
not.
Lions are concerned. And maybe against the teams they're going to play at times, we'll pick some people out that could have a big game. But it's not a fantasy podcast. At any rate, thanks for listening. Go Lions. Let's have a good second preseason game.